Hello, everyone. Hello, and a very, very warm welcome to World of Fashion, hosted by Harper's Bazaar Arabia at Mall of the Emirates. I'm Olivia Phillips. I'm the editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar Arabia, and I am absolutely thrilled to be joined tonight on stage by Bünyamin Aydin, or Benji, as he likes to be called, who is the founder and creative director of ridiculously cool streetwear brand Les Benjamin. Les Benjamin was launched 10 years ago with a range of 30 printed T-shirts, and since that time, Benji has steered the Istanbul-based brand with the help of his lovely wife, who I met earlier, to pretty impressive heights. It's now stocked around the world, including the soon-to-be-open store right here at Mall of the Emirates. And the label has become a poster child for successfully taking a local brand global and for a true redefinition of modern streetwear using Benji's unique East meets West perspective. So I'm thrilled to have him. Please give a very warm welcome to Benji.
Thank you.
Yay! Lots of fans in the house. Welcome back to Dubai. I was going to say this is a home away from home, but you've just moved here.
Yeah, it's been 1.5 months now, but I really don't feel like I'm away from home. Like, we also have friends here sitting, so they make us feel welcome, It feels really like home.
How long have you been coming to Dubai for?
If we add COVID on top of it, I came I think I've been coming the last 4 years. And I would come 2 times a year. Yeah.
And do you feel like a special connection with the place? Have you always felt like that?
I do, because a lot of we have a lot of similarities. There's some friends that grew up in Canada. There's some friends that grew up in Europe and they moved here. And we all have Eastern roots. So, and I was born in Germany and raised there with Turkish background. So a lot of people were raised abroad and they came here. Or even if they're not from the Middle East, they appreciate Orientalism and our culture. So I really like that, and it's an inspiration, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I want to go back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because I want to know how it all started. And I would love to know if fashion design was always on the cards for you.
That's a tricky one, because I didn't know I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was a kid, growing up in Germany and in Switzerland. I was always interested in arts, architecture, still am, music. I used to be in a rock band, playing the electronic guitar. I was really confused. My parents were more into business. My mother used to own a fashion store. She was bringing in Jean-Paul Gaultier, Galliano, and a few other Italian brands to Istanbul. So I was confused, but I soon discovered that I love the creative side more, that I want to be a designer, that I want to do art or design. And when I discovered that, I fully focused, and it was around 10th grade, I would say, high school. And I was telling all my friends, what, I'm going to be a fashion designer, I want to create my own brand. And it started off I was 17, 16 probably.
What did your friends say? Were they supportive?
They were laughing at me. They're like, how are you going to be a designer and all of that? But, back then we were all joking to each other. We weren't taking things serious. And I was just designing some clothes, gifting it to friends and letting them rock it. And then suddenly people start looking, oh wow, what is this? Oh, Benji did it, go ask him and get it. And I would gift people, I wouldn't sell anything. And then suddenly, when a lot of people start asking, I was like, oh, I can actually become a designer. And I was 17?
Do some of your friends still have those early pieces?
Yeah, they do. Actually, one Mexican friend, he has one where we have only 2 pieces. It's Bruno and Benji. Yeah, it's a special edition.
So your interest kind of started in 10th grade, and then it grew from there, and you started making things for friends, and because of the general interest, it kind of encouraged you to continue.
Yeah, for me, fashion is it's very deep, you know. People tell stories. It's about culture. It's about bringing people together, and fashion is very powerful. We can really change people's mind, and we can have people awake on things. And for me, that was always a big influence, to be able to change people's mind and open the mind on other things. And I always wanted to design and have my perspective of my roots represented, because I didn't see the representation. You know, it was always about designers from Milan, designers from Paris, designers from New York, but why there's no designer from Istanbul? Why there's no designer from Dubai, you know? For me, it was always the question, like, why there's no representation? And that got me excited when I was a kid, I would say.
And what do you think were the milestones or like the really meaningful moments that pushed the brand forward?
To be honest, I think my Milan show was a big breakthrough. I was 24, and I had already done like 2 shows in Istanbul. And it was kind of like, oh, you know what? People know me in Istanbul now. How can I get out from that? Because sometimes when you're always in your own community, you get the feeling that you're stuck, and you want other people to know about you too. And for me, like my first Milan show, it was probably one of the biggest breakthroughs, because I went out from my comfort zone. I didn't know if it's gonna turn out good. I got welcomed by all the Italian press, and suddenly my show was on like so many magazines, and I'm a very private person. Like I got so anxious. Like I got many anxieties when that happened. But then I got the Nike approached me. They sent me like this letter. Benji, we saw what you're doing in the Middle East. You're gonna be one of the first 12 designers to go to Portland to design a shoe for Nike. I'm like, oh my God, it's like a dream,
Insane.
you know? Because yeah, and from that on, I think everything else came after that.
And since you've dressed Jay-Z and Offset
Yeah.
and plenty of other people, and tell us a bit more about your collaborations.
To be honest, yeah, collaborations are usually like, I try to do collabs that reflect to who I am, because I think if I can't relate to a brand, I shouldn't design for it, or I shouldn't do something. And for me, it's always trying to understand also the brand's heritage. Like, let's say if I do something with, let's say Coca-Cola or Nike, I would love to, before I design something, I would love to go to their archive, you know, see what they've done before, what's the heritage, what's the story behind the product. So for me, it's about knowing the brand's DNA, knowing where I stand, and finding the right balance to create something new.
Absolutely. Who's on your like wish list of dream collaborators?
Should I say that? No. Maybe I would love to do something with Elon Musk, maybe a rocket in the sky.
I mean, why not? I can see that print over there all over one of Elon Musk's rockets.
Is he here? No, I don't think so.
He's on the balcony.
Yeah. But people, yeah, people like him, people don't like him. But I like people that have big dreams, and yeah, when you want to create a difference, like Steve Jobs. Now we all use iPhones, and who would have thought to put glass on a phone was right? Like, all his team went against him. They said, no, you should not put glass on a phone. It's breakable. You can drop it. But that vision, it what inspires me a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
What do you think? Have you kind of come across anything like that in your creative process, where your team have been going, Benji, you're mad?
yeah, many times. Yeah, many times, I would say. To be honest, you have to believe in your vision, you know? You have to listen to yourself. You have to really follow your vision. And there's going to be times when you're going to feel very lonely, where you're not going to know, is this right what I'm doing? Why am I doing this? And for me, it's always, sometimes you do something that's not in your vision, but you have to do it because you have to realize that, oh, this was wrong. I should really stick to my own vision. So yeah, just doing mistakes and following your path, I guess.
I think you've got a lot of really good advice for young creatives, and I want to ask you about that in a little bit. But I wanted to ask about the launch. You launched in 2011.
Yeah.
And at that time, in the fashion industry, it was really when the luxury streetwear market was booming. And I was curious as to whether you felt like that was a help or whether it was a hindrance because you felt like you needed to shout louder to get your voice heard above the cacophony of other brands.
No, this is a question I get quite often. Like a lot of people ask me also, did you choose streetwear because you knew it's gonna become big? No, actually. I was into always like subcultures. Like I was a punk, at some point I was a metalhead, and then I was shifted to hip hop and rap. I always get inspired when something is underground, and I know that's very cliche, but I like to be part of a progress, be part of a subculture, and like try to support it in a way. And when something gets very commercialized, that's when you lose me in a way, because I feel like I can't contribute to it anymore. So for me, it's always like contributing and building a community and pushing something forward together.
So do you feel like you're still part of a subculture now?
I mean, we all are. I mean, you choose to be part of something and you choose not to be part of something. So with digital, like we're all so digitally connected. I miss also like the physical, like we're all together now. Like, or you would go to a rock concert when you were a kid. That front space in front of like the rock artist, that's where you feel the full energy. That's where you feel the concert. And for me, that's what's very exciting. And I feel like the physical is gonna be much more interesting now. Of course, digital, we're all digitally connected and it's inevitable, but I think creating like the things that we used to have in our childhood, that's what we all are seeking, I think.
So bring back the mosh pit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely, for sure. And I was one of those kids pushing people.
Me too, believe it or not.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just going back to subculture, because I think it's a topic that is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you believe that in order to be a creative, you do need to operate a little bit on the margins?
What do you mean by that?
Like, do you feel like to be a successful creative,
Yeah.
you do need to be a little bit like on the edge of mainstream culture?
I think there's cases on both sides. So I think you have to be you, you know. That's the answer. You have to be you. If you is being part of, I don't know, part of like let's say punk movement, then that's you, and you should be you.
I'm going to ask you an awkward question.
Go ahead. I love awkward.
I feel like you've got this kind of, well, you said when things get too popular, you're out. You're like, okay, it's not for me anymore. I don't feel like I can evolve it or develop it. But I would like to know how that philosophy like intersects with your evolution and the growth of your brand.
That's a great thing because it's kind of a contradiction, and I do lose interest in it, but at the same time I do, of course I keep going with it, but the thing is that when something gets very commercial and you have people that are not part of the culture, that are not literally part of it because they believe in it, and for me it's like you really need to find the right crowd and the right community where you can really keep going those values that brought you there, right? So for me, it's really important to have a community in whatever you do. If you're an artist, you should have other artists come to your exhibitions. If you're a musician, you should celebrate each other's releases. So for me, it's more about the natural feeling of being together, rather than this artist is showing up, let's all go because he's famous, you know. But what is the belief of the artist? What are his values? Why did he write that song? I like to have that intellectual conversation. And sometimes when something is commercial, you don't have that intellectual conversation anymore. It's more about I've been there, and it's kind of the social status to show I've been there. Look, I've been with that person, and that's
Performative.
yeah, yeah. I would say yeah.
On the topic of community, because I think that it does sound like it's something that's so incredibly important
Yeah.
to you and your entire, your entire process. I noticed on your website that you say, well, you refer to your brand as a platform of how we want the East to be today. And I think that that's very specific language that you've used. You've called it a platform as opposed to a brand. I wanted you to unpick that a little bit for us and how that might relate to community.
Yeah, like what I believe in is like actually who I am. I grew up in Germany in a very small town called Neuss, and then I came to Istanbul, and I didn't speak a word of Turkish, believe it or not, and I was always having the contrast between my German upbringing, my Turkish roots that I was hiding in Germany because you were trying to blend in. And then when I came to Turkey, I learned Turkish, and now I'm here. It's constantly you're trying to blend in, or sometimes you realize, and especially where I am right now, is accepting the duality idea, having the duality, and for me, that duality is actually what inspires me. You know, I have German upbringing, but I have my Turkish roots, and actually that's what um, East now also means for me, and that's why each product is about the East, because that's what I am. And now is kind of like the contemporary take on it, like East now is Le Benjamin. So all of that together, it's a contrast. I would say it's duality. It's living two things at the same time.
And it's fascinating, and it is becoming more and more prevalent. That's the world that we live in now. And you're a true global citizen. You have lived in 3 different countries, well, 4 now.
Yeah, it's
including
my
here.
fourth country.
Yeah. I want to understand how that duality or how that kind of cultural dialogue comes together into the pieces themselves. So is it the cuts? Is it the prints? Is it a combination of everything? How does it come to life?
So, when you design something, you always think about like classic references, like whether it's a Coach jacket, it's from sports inspired, whether it's a bomber jacket, it's inspired by the bomber jacket. So you always think about references. So when you look at references, it has origins. Like if you think of a kimono, it's from Japan. So you always reference something that's not from the East, or sometimes is from the East, but then you also reference your heritage, your roots, your traditional clothes of your ancestors, your childhood memories, the kind of nostalgia you bring with you. Like in Germany, especially like in Turkish homes, we had to have the tablecloth that you would put on top of the TVs. Maybe you have it in your culture too. So these kind of nostalgia items, I love nostalgia, and I try to bring it together with, and blending it with like references that are not from my heritage or my culture. So that blend is what brings the new, I would say.
And would you define it as streetwear?
To be honest, streetwear is also a term we can talk about and get awkward, but um, I think it's more like a progressive contemporary take on clothing, because what is streetwear in the essence? It's street culture, actually. And if you look at streetwear, one of the founders are like, that's debatable too, but it's Stussy, Jean Stussy. That's what they say, but of course, maybe the punk movement was streetwear, because the way they were dressing up actually is what streetwear is now. Like ripped denim, tight pants, and oversized t-shirts or oversized jackets. That aesthetic is kind of the pre-streetwear era, I would say, like punk.
It's a really interesting way of looking at it. I've not thought about it like that before.
It's an evolution, it's the way I look at it is things always cross affect each other, Yeah, it's my observation. I may be wrong,
No, I think it's a really strong observation. So in that vein, where do you see the evolution of streetwear? I mean, globally, but specifically in this region?
I think globally, it's gonna be cliche, but of course, sustainability is at the top of the chains, and I think we all have to think about how we can be more sustainable, how to use more sustainable yarns, how to use more without greenwashing. You know, because I'm really against greenwashing. That's why we do not talk too much about sustainability yet, because we're not sustainable. 99%, I don't know, can I talk about this? But 99% of fashion is polluting, you know.
It's
And
no secret, is it?
yeah, it's no secret, yeah. So we have a lot to do. We really have a lot to do, and I think that should be on top of it. Also, what we went through with the pandemic, you know, we just need to change our priorities, and also I think embed sustainability in our brand DNA rather than making it a marketing statement. That's what I think, yeah.
I think it's honourable to go at it from that angle, honestly, because I think you're quite right. There's greenwashing is so prevalent, and I think that consumers are super smart and they can see through that now. So
Yeah, I mean, you realize when something is fake in 1 minute. I mean, especially now, we're all wide awake. We all know what's happening, and I think it's really important to be real with each other. And whenever we release a campaign, we try to be as real as possible. We'll talk to the models we shoot. Do you believe in this product? Do you believe in this story? You know, do you celebrate it? Because if the model who's in the shoot doesn't celebrate what you designed, you see it in his face that he's not enjoying the shoot, you know? For me, like, the harmony is very important.
I want to go back to your words of wisdom in a
Yes.
more in a kind of very direct way.
Something fell there, but it's okay.
I think it's probably quite easy for people to look at someone such as yourself and think, you know, you've had maybe overnight success, and they haven't necessarily understood the graft and the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into actually what has made you a success. Or they might look at your success and think it's been plain sailing. And I think because you're such a role model, I would say, to young creatives, how important do you think it is for you to share your words of wisdom with them, but in a really honest sense about the challenges that might have been? That was really long-winded. Did you understand what I meant?
No, yeah. I mean, I usually try to do it very in an intimate way. You know, I mentor 8 designers back in Istanbul. Um, I talk a lot to my community on DM. So if someone has a question, I'll give a lot of time, and Lamia hates me on this because sometimes I'll spend 2 hours replying DMs of people that I've never met and I don't know. But for me, that relationship, some kids ask, like, I want to go into fashion, which school should I study at? Like, there's only 2 schools in Istanbul you can study at, but I'll still answer because they're so excited. That, like, answer for them can mean the world and also can make them want to do it, you know? So I'll take a lot of time to give, but at the same time, sometimes it gets very overwhelming. But yeah, I try to balance, but I really want to give as much as I can because you feel like a responsibility, you know? If you don't answer that DM, maybe that designer or that kid is gonna be one of the biggest designers, you know? So every little message counts in a way.
It's so nice to hear that you're taking it really seriously.
Yeah, I do.
What are your kind of key points of advice for young creatives looking to replicate your success?
I think my my suggestion would be as true as you can, you know. Try not to do something that someone else did. Look at how they did it, but do your own story. Don't be afraid of making any mistakes, and your friends are gonna put you down because that's what we do in the Middle East. We always say, he did it already. Why are you doing that? Don't do that. That's what's already been done. You know, we have this culture here. So I think just find the people that really celebrate and believe in you and get advice from them who push you. And try not to listen to your surroundings sometimes, even though you should. But yeah, it's a balance. And if you find that balance, and if you find those few people that really believe in you, they will bring you forward, you know. And yeah, that's what helped me. Because my friends were so bad sometimes. They were like, don't do this, don't do that.
So who's your mentor?
To be honest, I had so many mentors. I was very fortunate, actually. And my mentors are actually not from fashion. One of them is a photographer. He passed away, actually, just this year. So God rest him in peace. One of them is in the is a general manager of a hotel. So it's like different industries. One of them is an artist, is not in fashion. But I think all of them have so much experience, and it's actually more interesting to listen to people that are not in fashion, because number one, they give their true feedback and not related to you. And number three, you can take what they had or problems they had, and you can translate it into fashion.
I think that's a great piece of advice, just to take advice from different disciplines and not just
Yeah.
stick in your lane.
Yeah, because sometimes, most of the times, when we're in the industry, we look at like the predefined way of things going, right? Like, let's say you want to create a fashion brand. They tell you, oh, you need to do a fashion show. Do you? There's so many the kids from Instagram that became so famous not doing any shows. They just started doing like customized pieces for like their community, friends, and then one celebrity will see it and put it on, and then they'll skyrocket. Everyone has their own story, and I think don't get carried away by looking at others. Oh, he did that, he did this, I have to be able to do that too. I think we get, especially now with social media, we compare a lot, and we get anxieties and we feel lonely. That's why I suggest just do your own thing and do it the way you want to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And it kind of, it reminds me of something that you said to me on the phone the other day, kind of in this non-conformist space. You said that in the creative field, we're living through a time when everything is welcome. You said weird is welcome, which I think is such
Yes.
a brilliant turn of phrase, and it really stayed with me. I think it's really quirky, but really beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
And I think you meant that you could turn your hand to anything right now and it wouldn't feel jarring or dissonant. And that's the creative space that we're in, and it's really exciting. So what does that mean for your brand? What's next?
What's next? I mean, the store here,
The
the store
Rocket.
that we're opening here, I'm super excited about. My fashion show that I'm gonna be doing in Berlin, actually, in January, that's something I'm really excited about. It's a lot of things. I think also seeing the transition of going back to normal. You know, I was just in Paris for Fashion Week, seeing things coming slowly back to normal is very interesting, and seeing what we've learned from like what happened with all the lockdowns, how brands will change. That's also very exciting to see. I think all lockdown and all this pandemic, of course, it was a huge health problem as well, but seeing how designers changed their core DNA and how we're gonna go out from this is very exciting.
I agree, and I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Yeah.
I think we've got a little bit of time for some questions from the audience. If anyone's got any questions for Benji, please feel free to ask them. Anyone? Someone be brave, go on. This man is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom.
No, go on. I'm still learning.
All good. Ah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Lisa Rockney.
Thank you so much. That was a really great talk. I really enjoyed that. You mentioned that you have mentors from different industries. I'd love to hear an example of where a different industry may have inspired you. So where you kind of got inspiration for one of your collections from something out of the fashion world. Because I think you talked really well about how it's important to kind of step outside your box, and actually what you can gain from other industries can be sometimes even more interesting than what's within your own space.
So actually, great question. my friend, he's actually, I give you the example of the hotel actually. He's in the hotel industry. So when I go to his hotel and whenever I talk to him, he's like, Benji, whenever you come to our hotel, it's an experience. You don't just go to the hotel and you stay there, you rent a room, you rent an experience. And I think that angle is very inspiring because when the way you check in, the way like they talk to you at the entrance, the way that the hotel has been designed, the interior design, the smell, how you're welcomed, even if they research before you come, like, oh, the background, oh, they're into this, they like this, and the hotel will adapt to that. I think hospitality is also a big influence in my work because whenever you do an event, a fashion show, you want to make sure that everyone feels welcome and comfortable. So the hospitality, I think, is one of the most challenging industries in the world to give an experience that is both very creative and also very high on like an operational side. And I would always relate to this. How does my fashion show need to be? Do I need to do drinks at the beginning? Do I not to do no drinks? How will be the seating? Like it's all so detailed. Who's gonna sit where? That's a disaster. But I let Zoe deal with that. But yeah. But in the end, like any industry can inspire you. For me, like hospitality, I'm also like I love hospitality. Whenever I go visit a city, I'll really look at like how far did the hotel go to give me the experience. Because for me, maybe it's like a creative craziness, but I love when a hotel or any experience, a restaurant, gives the effort where they really, like from designing the menu, the ingredients, how you're greeted, all that 360 degree, it's actually design in a way. And for me, that's really, really exciting. And I learned a lot from him.
I think I see a hotel in your future, Benji.
Yeah, maybe, maybe I will design a hotel one day.
Please do. Do it here. Thanks, Lisa. I think this lady had a question as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Bünyamin, for the presentation that you gave first.
Of course.
So my question would be, what was your vision when you first started this brand, and what was the reason behind it, and how did you make it reach to your audience? Like, how did you make this vision actually reach your audience, and how did you make them understand your vision? Like, through what exactly? Thank you.
That's a good one too. I started with my community. Like what meant community? My friends. First you gotta have your friends represent what you do, respect you, and it really some of them don't think that's gonna work, and that is challenging. It always starts with your closest circle, and that circle kind of expands. So you start with your small circle, and then that circle becomes bigger, and that circle becomes bigger. So it's always the first few 10 people that believe in you, and that 10 people will become 20 people, that 20 people will become 100, then they will become 1,000, and then it will just keep growing. But I think you need a circle of people that really believe in you, whatever you do, and they feel like they're part of the brand, There is this, for example, this friend of mine, he's a DJ in Istanbul. He's been there since day one. He's been in all my shows. I'll always respect and honor him because he's been believing me since day one. And those people become like your family because they believed in your vision since day one. So I think finding those, I would say, they're kind of your friend/ambassadors is what's going to be the most important thing because they're spreading your message. And that's how it happened with me, but it took time. I mean, I think I was 19 when I started the idea of Le Benjamin. That was roughly 12 years ago. And now it's my 10th year of having the brand. So it's really slow baby steps. Don't think like it's from one day to other. It's like really baby steps, one by one. I hope I answered your question.
Has anyone got a question? Yes? Amazing.
Hey, this is Barkan, a friend. I'm from Istanbul as well. I have a question. I know that your name is Bünyamin, such an international, traditional name, especially in Turkish and I think Middle Eastern as well. But I love the name Le Benjamin. What's the story behind of it? How did you find that?
That's a funny story, you
Because
know.
I remember the first time when I heard this brand, I thought it's French, but it's
Yeah.
not French. So.
Yeah. So you know, I actually wanted to call the brand the Benjamins, you know, and then like I got so excited. I was telling my mom, 19 years old, you know, Mom, I found the best name, and I started calling my friends. Oh, it's gonna be the Benjamins, and then my mom told me, but do you know you have to get the patent of the brand? I'm like, what's a patent? You know, and then I started like researching, and there's this rock band called the Benjamins. They already had the fashion patent, and my dream broke. You know, I was like, oh no, you know, it was so good, the name. And then I was like, you know what? What's my favorite city in the world? It's Paris. What's the epicenter of fashion? It's Paris. The biggest shows are in Paris. Like, if it's kind of the Champions League of fashion. You know, if you are a designer, you're showing in Paris. You can't get higher. So for me, always visiting Paris, going to Colette, which is also one of my favorite fashion stores, which closed down now, and Sarah, who's a big inspiration also. For me, Paris, like whenever I would go there, like look for the Comme des Garçons store, you know, look for the Magella products. Like as a kid growing up, Paris was always like it was for me like Disney World going there, as a fashion enthusiast. So, and then I was like, you know what? Let me call it in French, Le Benjamin. Yeah, it's basically that.
That was a great question. Thank you.
Yes.
You have one too? Okay. Where's the mic?
Hi, Sabah here. I want to ask, like, what's that one item you love working on or you love to design? As in, when you're working, what's that one item you just go like, okay, I want to do like this today?
It's the one that I love, but I hate as well. It's sneakers. I love designing sneakers, but it's a love and hate relationship because I'll always end up hating what I did, and it'll take like so much time for me to perfect it. But I love designing footwear in general. Also, like I would love to design classic shoes like loafers. Yeah, but footwear, because I collect also shoes and sneakers. Yeah, it's maybe because I was a basketball player growing up. I have this feeling about sneakers and footwear, and I collect it myself. So yeah, it's a hate and love. It's really hate and love.
Okay. All right. Oh, thank you so much, Benji. And
No,
honestly, it
thank
was
you.
really illuminating. Lots of words of wisdom and lots of fun. I hope you guys had fun as well. Thank you so much for coming. Please give Benji a round of applause.
Thank you. You guys been welcoming me and Lamia a lot, so, and also you. And thank you guys for being here, and thank you.